Welcome to the September Sustainability, Housing, Efficiency, and Neighborhood Subcommittee agenda. Thank you for joining us. I have Councilwoman Stark and Councilman Waring here in person and Councilman Valenzuela telephonically. Good morning, Councilman.
Good morning.
We have no call to the public, so we'll begin with a review of the meeting minutes.
I move to approve.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Passes unanimously. We have a consent agenda, but we have some questions on it, so we're going to take each item individually. We will let Councilman Waring kick us off with questions on item number 2. Or I'm sorry, item number, yes. Public outreach on greenhouse gas reduction goal.
Who am I asking? On item 2, who would I ask questions of?
Councilman Waring had questions on the consent agenda.
Right.
Would you like department heads to come up?
Number 2 is the housing department.
Housing.
Thanks.
Significant amendment, right.
So if I just summarize what we're doing here, we're getting more money, and in order to get that money, we have to change our rules a little bit, how we're doing things. Is that a fair summary?
Madam Chair and Councilman Waring, we're not getting any money with RAD. What we're getting is an opportunity. So rental assistance demonstration gives us the opportunity to redevelop public housing using alternative methods that we don't have with straight public housing. So it turns it into Section 8 project-based vouchers, and it gives us the ability to mortgage the property and to go for low-income housing tax credits and other financing methods to make the redevelopment happen.
So it gives us more flexibility.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'm good.
And so I'll move to approve item 2.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Item number 3 is NFL Foundation grassroots grant application for choice neighborhoods.
Whoever.
I think if our housing department director could stay up for items 2 through 4.
Stay up here. Okay.
So this is a new field that I guess the NFL is paying for.
Yes, Madam Chair, Councilman Waring, this is part of our Choice Neighborhoods initiative that we're working in the Edison East Lake community with 577 units of aged obsolete public housing. So as part of the Choice Neighborhoods, we need to improve the neighborhood and add amenities that other neighborhoods have. So this would add a football, soccer kind of athletic field lighted in Edison Park to make it a new amenity for these public housing residents and the rest of the community.
Madam Chair, since your plan was to vote on the consent agenda, obviously, can we just do 3, 4, and 6 all at once? Because I think they all deal with the same neighborhood, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so I'll just ask my question. So for the field, I mean, fields are hard to upkeep and so forth. I think it said there's no cost to the general fund, but who pays to keep up the field?
So it would be part of the park, part of Edison Park once it's created, and Parks Department would take over the maintenance of that.
Okay, so we will have maintenance costs.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but we get the field for free.
Yes.
So in number 4 and number 6, and number 3, it's a lot of money all being redirected to one neighborhood. But I think number 6 was millions. Why that one neighborhood? Why not share the wealth? I'm just curious.
So, Madam Chair and Councilman Waring, this is the highest concentration of public housing in the state of Arizona. It is all aged public housing built from 1940s to the 1960s. It needs to be redeveloped. And because of the aged and obsolete public housing in this neighborhood around St. Luke's Medical Center, the neighborhood has had no investment and no improvements for decades. It's a neighborhood in great need. It's very high poverty, very high rate of minorities. 50% of the residents have a high school degree. The income average is about $13,000 a year. It's a neighborhood in great need of investment. It is near downtown, off 16th Street and Van Buren. It's on the way from the airport. It's in the Gateway community area where Community and Economic Development is working on improving the Gateway area. So it's a neighborhood that is in dire need of investment, and we have the opportunity to leverage a Choice Neighborhood grant from the Housing and Urban Development Department, federal grant, to make the improvements needed to improve this neighborhood and make it a neighborhood where not only public housing residents live, but also we can build market rate apartments and maybe even home ownership opportunities and have amenities there where other people would want to live, make a mixed income neighborhood that improves the whole city of Phoenix.
And Madam Chair, if I may, so on 6 and 9, that's all federal money, correct?
Yes, sir.
what happens if they stop sending us money?
So the commitments that we make in the Choice Neighborhoods application are commitments of money that we receive. So should we have a reduction or stop receiving any of those monies in those two areas, our commitment would be likewise reduced. So if we've committed a certain amount of money and we get a 10% cut, HUD would allow us to cut our match by 10%. That's in the grant.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate it.
And the items are related, so to be more competitive for the federal grant, it's helpful if we have additional grants to increase our local share.
Yes, all of the leverage that we can attain, be it city match, federal funding matches, and any other grants that we can go for, it all goes towards leverage and makes our application much more appealing to HUD.
But Phoenix taxpayers aren't paying any more. They pay obviously their federal taxes. This is money coming back to Phoenix. But we're not charging Phoenix residents more to do the stuff that we're voting on today.
No, we are not.
Great. Would entertain a motion on items 3 through 5.
We're continuing.
And 6 as well.
Motion to approve.
Sorry, I'm sorry. We're continuing item, okay. Do we need a motion to continue the item 5? Excellent.
So why don't we make a motion first to continue item 5?
Second.
Okay.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we've continued item 5.
And then, again, first off, Councilman Waring, thank you so much for those questions. Appreciate them on items 3, 4, and 6. I would move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. We move on to item number 7, which is an excess property disposal update with great information if people want to read it in the packet. Continue to move forward with disposing of property. There's no presentation plan for that item, so we move to item 8.
Oh, can I ask you a question?
Yes, you can.
Sorry, I apologize.
It's your favorite agenda
Yeah,
item.
that's right, that's right. Getting rid of stuff, that's good. So there are 5, I guess, addresses in here. I think I'm sort of vaguely familiar with each of the neighborhoods at the very least, where I can say that I think these are all residential that are in District 2. So I'm just curious, the city owns houses there? I
Councilman
mean, I guess I
Waring,
could flip through and give you the page number,
Yeah.
but.
Are these
So
scattered
one
site
is on
housing?
page 36, one is on 37, 2 are on 38, and 1 is on 39. And they all seem to be residential addresses.
Yes, those are all housing properties, scattered
Those are
sites.
houses that we own that we're
Correct,
selling.
Correct.
Just out of curiosity, why do we own them and why are we selling them?
That's probably a better
It's
question.
Cindy
for
Stotler
Cindy.
Day at the, welcome our housing director back up.
Madam Chair, Councilman Waring, we are selling what we call our scattered sites public housing homes. We had about 434 of those homes. I'm sorry, something's bothering me here. We had about 434 of those homes that we were operating as public housing, I think about 4 or 5 years ago. And it's cost prohibitive to operate them as public housing because they're very high maintenance. A lot of them are older homes. So the program was losing money. So we went for another HUD program called Section 32, which allows us to rehab the homes and then sell them as affordable housing. So they're income qualified. Persons who are buying them have to be 80% of area median income or lower and qualify for a mortgage, and we send them to housing counseling beforehand to qualify for them for the mortgage and get them on a payment system. We have the houses appraised. We sell them at 20% below appraised value with the housing counseling and that mortgage. So it's a home ownership program. Section 32 is an affordable home ownership program, and it allows us to provide home ownership opportunities as an alternative to public housing in a home that is not cost recovery.
So Madam Chair, so once we sell it though, that's it. We're not supporting the residents who are presumably paying their mortgage and so forth, or we're not. They're on their own. They get the training, but then that's it. And they're getting a little bit of a discount, but
Yes.
that's all.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions? With that, then we will move to item 8, the Bloomberg Philanthropies Challenge. And welcome Mark Hartman, our Chief Sustainability Officer, and Michael Hammett, our Chief Service Officer.
Good morning. Mark Hartman, as you mentioned, Chief Sustainability Officer, Michael Hammett, our Chief Service Officer, and David Hondala, Assistant Professor at ASU and actually a faculty member in many departments out at ASU. He has a PhD in Environmental Studies, and he'll be kind of speaking on one particular aspect of this application today. So I wanted to, I'm kind of excited in two ways for this particular application, and that one is it's exciting to apply for a grant that could be up to $5 million. And the second part is actually what we're coming up with as a unique idea that we want to apply for. The sort of the outline of the grant is to say for something that's never been done before. And so to kind of give an overview of this Bloomberg Mayor's Challenge, I wanted to let Michael take it from here and kind of just give an overview of this particular grant.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, council members. So in June, Michael R. Bloomberg announced that he would be distributing $200 million to cities to address the most pressing challenges those cities are dealing with. So we were asked, all cities were asked to RSVP and say, yes, we'd be interested in participating in this. So we did. We were one of the first cities to respond, and that allowed us to have a workshop, an accelerator workshop that took place on September 6th, where we were able to meet with Jen Park, a representative from Bloomberg Philanthropy. She came to town. It was an all-day. Karen Peters led this from the city perspective, and members of city staff as well as community organizations came together, and basically we spent the day looking at our most pressing issue and really digging deep. So they didn't want us to focus on solutions. They wanted us to really look at the problem and what the causes of that problem would be. So it was a tremendous workshop, and we've been very fortunate to work with Cities of Service, which is one of the organizations of Bloomberg Philanthropies over the last couple of years, and they're tremendous in terms of their technical assistance. That is just absolutely a cornerstone. So it's already proven with that first step with that workshop. And so our next steps would be that the application is due on October 20th, and in January 2018, they will select 35 cities to pilot a program, and that would come with $100,000 as well as that technical support that I mentioned, which is just critical. And the next step after that would be that a city would receive $5 million and a couple of cities would receive $1 million. So it's a step-by-step process. We're moving along. We've gotten to the point where we've really identified a problem, which Mark and David will speak about. So that is where we're at in the process right now, but it's really exciting.
So the solve an urgent problem was what is the problem that we really want to solve here, and there's many things we could look at from a city's perspective. And the one aspect of it was what is unique as well that other cities aren't looking at, and the one we looked at was actually urban heat. And for one, in talking with Bloomberg, that no other cities were really looking at this. They were looking at many urban problems, but we were kind of unique in wanting to look at this particular one, even though it's a problem for many cities. And the other is that we are actually the kind of the epicenter of kind of heat research. Like as we even talk to National EPA and National Weather Service and talk to them, they say, well, you should talk to ASU because they've got all the research on this. So it's really interesting. And so really looking at how can we address that. And we've also have many solutions that we've implemented. And so, but the one aspect of sort of right-sizing the problem was what is it we really want to look at is the disproportionate effects of heat on particularly vulnerable populations, low-income populations. And up on the screen is kind of a heat map looking at the city and kind of in the south and west of Phoenix. It's definitely the surface temperatures are a lot hotter. I mean, it's a lot smaller tree canopy, a lot more exposed areas and exposed homes. And so really an opportunity to say how, really the effects of heat are most impacted by vulnerable populations. And so that is the kind of the issue we want to address. And it is something that, many cities are struggling with, and, yet none are actually looking at this problem as far. So we think we're really well positioned in Bloomberg to kind of address this specifically. Many causes of heat, so it's not just about our temperature, the long wave radiation that hits our city, but it's our building materials. How much heat are they absorbing? And the amount of shade we have and heat produced from cars as they're driving on our freeways, and even the freeway surfaces. And so, many things are the causes of heat. We want to look at how can we mitigate that so we could really cool off in the evening is probably one of the primary benefits of kind of addressing that. And so as we kind of look at it, we had this idea accelerator, as Michael mentioned, and had many departments in the room as sort of outside organizations as well that kind of looked at how do we, what did we actually say? And the idea that we actually came up with, and primarily I must give credit to ASU and actually David Hundle specifically for this concept of a heat-ready city. So the city from a storm-ready, there's actually 2,600 cities globally that are storm-ready. Phoenix became recently, our Office of Homeland Security Emergency Management let our application become a storm-ready city. And we're now officially labeled as a storm-ready city. Well, this heat-ready city hasn't been done before. It's this new idea, and as we've kind of tested the waters on this, as people go like, oh, that's a really good idea, and so we think there's a really good position on this. And so what is a heat-ready city? Well, I'd like the premier expert on that topic, David Hundler, to speak to us about that. So thank you. Go ahead, David.
Thank you, Mr. Hartman, and thank you, Madam Chair and members of council. Pleasure to be here. I'd like to first express the support from myself and a large and diverse group of researchers at ASU to contribute to this initiative. We're very enthusiastic about the idea we're putting forward here in partnership with my colleagues at the table. And we share the perspective of my colleagues at the table here that our city and region can and should be leading the global conversation about coping with heat or perhaps even thriving in the heat. So what would make a city heat ready? Cities would go through a formal self-evaluation process where they demonstrate effort and success in a number of different thematic areas, not only mitigating heat, as Mr. Hartman mentioned earlier, but in other important thematic areas like education and collaboration. Looking at some of the folks who are gathered here today, it's clear that we'd be well positioned to demonstrate success in some of these areas. The city has a comprehensive tree and shade master plan speaking to that theme of heat mitigation. Our Take a Hike, Do It Right campaign includes extensive signage for hikers at trailheads to reduce the impact of heat on that unique vulnerable population. And collaboration, we could demonstrate tremendous success as well. The Heat Relief Network partners with the Maricopa Association of Governments, the Maricopa County Department of Public Health, and other agencies to provide services for some of our most vulnerable population. The Heat Ready program would also be one that challenges cities, including ourselves, to continually reevaluate and improve our heat preparedness and response activities. And of course, this would have to be a collaborative effort. We wouldn't just be setting the rules for our own game to demonstrate success, but work with our local residents, other cities, and state and federal agencies to really think critically about what would make a city heat ready. Thank you.
Our application, thank you. So our application this will be first a pilot, this heat ready in a neighborhood. So look at a neighborhood and say, so let's apply this heat ready criteria to specific low income neighborhood in Phoenix and South and West Phoenix to say, what would that look like? Let's apply the criteria. What can we do? What are the things we could do? What are the things we're already doing as a city, which the list is long. And so how do we apply that community level? And that's what the $100,000 grant application would be for. And then if we are successful in kind of really demonstrating that and gaining the interest of Bloomberg, and we want to go for either the $5 million or the $1 million options for what could be go further, we would look at expanding that citywide and even actually replicate it nationally to look at how do we kind of proliferate this heat-ready certification system both in the U.S. and globally as being a national standard. So that's really what our great idea is. That is really, I think, unique and has some great merit. So our recommendation here for staff is to actually for this subcommittee to recommend to council both apply for Bloomberg and receive and disperse a grant should we be successful in getting it.
Councilwoman.
Yes, thank you. I have a couple questions. First off, could I get a copy of that map that was in the presentation so I can look at it a little closer? Secondly, is part of what you're looking at deal with cost? Because you talk about materials such as paving, and does that mean that we might have to start going in and retrofit, and what would that cost? Are you going to take a look at that as you go through the study? I don't know who to ask that question to.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair and Councilwoman Stark. As far as materials, there's many actually solutions out there that actually aren't an additional cost. They're actually just using alternative materials. It's actually because we don't actually say, oh, what should we build our buildings with materials that don't absorb heat so much? That actually question really hasn't been in many ways asked, or or we've done many experiments in the city of looking at materials and discovering, oh, look, these ones are actually better at not absorbing as much heat, but we haven't integrated them citywide. Or so really looking at what are the solutions, and we're currently doing our research with the EPA on what are all the materials that we have, both for roofing materials and surface materials and building materials that actually are at a cost similar to current construction, and yet can actually reduce the amount or impacts of heat and heat collection. So, very much, I think there's great opportunity. So it's really just being strategic about the way we approach it, as opposed to saying, oh, let's build a giant cooling umbrella over the city or something. No, it's actually really practical solutions.
Right. But I guess what I'm getting at is if you've looked at certain areas of the city that have already been constructed and you're trying to cool it down, how do you go in? I mean, is there some retrofitting? That's what I'm kind of trying to understand.
So yes, and actually that's a great opportunity. So one particular area that we actually have about $3 million a year that we do in upgrades to homes to actually weatherize them and keep the heat out, look at improving the air conditioning systems, providing them for low-income facilities. We do quite a number. Actually, it's a very long list of people who are subscribed to that, and that's one of the strategies that actually we want to employ. Really, how do we, from inside the home, make them more comfortable, and then as well on trees and neighborhoods and parks in their neighborhoods to provide areas of cool within their neighborhoods and provide shading, and even particularly on routes to transit. So what about routes they're taking in order to, for some populations that are really dependent on transit, providing corridors, cool corridors for them in order to make it their way to transit. So real opportunity to kind of examine that holistically from the experience of their life, from inside out through outside.
Thank you. So we got some very positive national attention for some of the work we did this summer on heat relief and heat relief networks. Will this allow us to build on what we've already been doing in that area?
That's the best part, is to say we here in Phoenix, should we be successful in our mission, would be to actually be the founders of the Heat Relief Network in partnership with ASU in saying it was started here. We discovered this certification process and created it in partnership with many other cities and then released it. So we'd be the first adopter, I guess, of the actual certification. So no, we could be certainly a voice on saying it started here.
And certainly we have more summer heat challenges than many cities, but it seems like throughout the summer this year, many cities face challenges with, for example, people in the homeless community who had either severe health impacts from heat or lost their lives. So, and people in housing that didn't have that.
It's a pressing issue for every city. I know in Portland they hit 105 this summer. It's crazy. And it's pretty humid there as well. So it's really, many cities have struggled, both northern and southern states, for impacts of heat on vulnerable populations. And so, but we, with the amount of research we've done, can be a real voice in expressing solutions.
And then I think the council is also very aware that so much of our workforce is outside in the city of Phoenix, and we have tried to do what we can to reduce health impacts on our workforce, but that's something that weighs on us every summer. Is there potential that this research could help our workforce as well?
It's an excellent comment. Did you have any thoughts on that about?
I would certainly imagine the occupational sector being an important component of a heat-ready certification program that cities would adopt. As was discussed earlier, demonstrating the successes and positive initiatives that the city has already undertaken to protect and provide relief and support for outdoor workers during the summer would be involved in communicating those stories to other cities. But also, we've discussed, for example, that one important theme might be technological innovation. And what might we be able to do to understand more specifically the conditions that some of our outdoor workers are experiencing during the summer? What are their physiological impacts? Can we do a better job of tracking and understanding their health experiences in real time with new technologies just coming to market? I think there'd be the opportunity through this Heat Ready certification program to receive credit of sort for experimenting along those lines.
Wonderful, thank you. Any further questions? With that, would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Wonderful, passes unanimously. Good luck, and
Thank you, members
thank you
of council.
for
Madam Chairman,
pursuing the important issue.
if I could point out and thank that Lisa Jones from our Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management is here, and she will be a very active participant in the process of developing the certification and was key to getting the Storm Ready certification. So we're excited to work with multidisciplinary aspects of the city and community.
Wonderful. Congratulations. Thank you. This is a great the council really challenged the city to work across boundaries, and this is a great example of doing that. We'll welcome our housing director back up to talk about Section 8 vouchers.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. With me this time is Deputy Housing Director Titus Matthew. And today we're going to talk about Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. Section 8 is a 100% federally funded program. It's housing assistance. It's funded by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to the tune of about $60 million a year. Oops, I'm having technical difficulties. The Phoenix Housing Department receives about 6,800 vouchers a year. That is our allocation from HUD. Most of those vouchers are housing choice vouchers, meaning that the voucher holder gets to go and choose where to live, anywhere in the city of Phoenix. The voucher pays for, so the resident who holds the voucher pays 30% of their adjusted gross income towards rent, and the voucher pays the rest of the rent. We also have a number of vouchers that are dedicated as project-based vouchers. Sorry, there we are. Project-based vouchers, which means they're attached to a certain housing community, and most of those project-based vouchers are in housing communities that are created specifically for very vulnerable residents like frail elderly, veterans, homeless veterans, chronically homeless, and things like that. Again, that the voucher holder pays 30% of their adjusted gross income, and the program pays the other percent of the rent. The program is very well run. It has been very well run for many years. We are a high performer according to HUD's evaluation every single year. We're very proud of that. One of the things that we do with our vouchers is we identify special populations, and the council has been very good about identifying special populations who are in dire need of housing and identifying and prioritizing vouchers for those populations. So we prioritize right now 275 vouchers for chronically homeless. Those are housing choice vouchers that we partner with the Human Services Department in locating that housing for chronically homeless. We also have a number of project-based vouchers that we prioritize for other vulnerable populations like homeless veterans and victims of domestic violence and victims of human trafficking right now. This program is very popular because of the choice involved in the program. It is one of our most popular programs. It has a number of challenges that come with it, however. And one of the major challenges is the need. I want to go back to a year ago when we opened our wait list. We had not opened our wait list for 10 years. We opened our wait list and received 27,000 applications, and we had to lottery those down to 10,000 to have a manageable number that we could get through within 4 to 5 years. We have a turnover in vouchers of about 300 to 500 a year, so that takes us that long to get through the 10,000 applications that we lotteried down to. This is such a popular program and there's so much housing need out there. About 98,000 low-income residents in Phoenix, according to our consolidated plan, are in need of housing assistance, which is why we get something like 27,000 when we open up the wait list. I'm going to turn it over to Titus to talk about the other two challenges of proration and costs.
Good morning. Thank you, Cindy. The Section 8 program is funded 100% by HUD. HUD provides two funding streams, one for the HCV voucher payments and one for the administrative fees, which covers the staffing costs. The administrative fee is actually based on a formula by HUD based on the vouchers leased per month during the year. And for the past 7 years, HUD has reduced the administrative fee based on proration, ranging from 69% to 85% over the last 10 years. So the last time we received 100% eligible funding was in 2003, about 14 years ago. So because of proration, if you look at this slide, based on the different proration levels, the first year we actually lost 1.4 million based on 69% proration in 2012. At 74%, we lose 1.2 approximately, and then at 85%, the reduction is about $675,000. So the next slide, for the last 5 years, we have actually had operating deficits in that our costs exceeded the reimbursements from HUD. ranging from $430,000 in 12-13 to $606,000 in 16-17, the past fiscal year. And we used to have reserves, or like a savings account in Section 8 program, made up of reserves when we had over 100% of eligible funding. Those reserves have been depleted, and there's no way going forward without getting additional funding. So we have, the next slide, hired a consultant last year to look at other PHAs around the country to see what they do differently, and if we're doing anything different, or we could do anything different to be successful. And they did a 9-city survey and came to a conclusion that our Section 8 staff were carrying the same caseload as other PHAs, major PHAs, 400 to 500 cases per caseworker or a Section 8 staff member. And then our staffing costs were slightly higher than other PHAs. And then so what we have been doing to sustain this currently is we have 34 authorized FTEs in Section 8, of which 7 are vacant. And we're using temp agency staff to fill those positions. But it's not a long-term solution or sustainable going forward. And the employee costs and reserves are depleted. So these are the choices we have currently at the moment. I'll turn it over to Cindy.
So to summarize that good news, our past losses have been funded by reserves up until this year. So we were okay until this year. Our estimated annual loss going forward is at least $700,000, but it depends on how much proration we receive, and we never know that until about the middle of the year. And there is, as Titus said, there's no sustainable way forward unless we make a big change in this program, because the way we're running it now is not working and we're losing money. So we have 3 options before you today, and the first option is obtain general funds. We could ask the council and you to recommend $1 million, up to $1 million in general funds. We would need that every single year, and we could need a little less or a little more depending on the proration, so we wouldn't really know exactly how much that would be. That is one option. Another option is contract management. And this is where we would issue a request for proposals and obtain a contractor who would manage this program. This is something that a lot of other PHAs are going to right now based on proration. The contract manager can operate more efficiently and more cheaply, basically, every year. There are 3 major companies nationally that do this: Nan McKay, Quadell, and CBR. All of those companies are working currently in other jurisdictions that are similar size to Phoenix. And many of them also work for HUD, directly contracted to do Section 8 voucher programs in other jurisdictions. Just to give you an idea of some of the other jurisdictions that are similar size to Phoenix that are contracting right now with a vendor for Section 8, some of them up there, including Newark, New Jersey, that we've had a meeting with, and also Chicago Housing Authority and Miami-Dade. If we did go for contracting, we have a timeline in front of you where we could issue, if we could issue an RFP by November, we could make a transition, a full transition by July of 2018. We think this would work. We have talked to other PHAs that have done this, and a lot of the contractors have worked very closely with other PHAs, and they have a very smooth transition plan. So I think we could make it happen in 1 year, in July 2018. This also gives us a lot of time to put together a very strong contract with a lot of I don't know what I want to say, a lot of requirements in it that we could live with, basically, because this is a whole program contracting out. So we would need a lot of time to work with the law department on this, and also other departments like transit who run large contracts like this. So it gives us some time to do that. It also gives us plenty of time to work with the staff that are currently there. So as Titus said, we have 35 FTEs assigned, full-time equivalent positions assigned to this program. 27 are filled, 7 are vacant. So the 27 filled positions we would work with very closely with the Human Resources Department to find other assignments for those staff. We have a number of assignments that we could move them internally in the Housing Department to do public housing performance jobs, and then we'd also have to look in the rest of the city and qualify those staff for that. So this gives us time to do all of that. The last option that I'm going to bring up is an option to give the program back to HUD. Some jurisdictions have opted for this option. HUD would probably do one of 2 things. They would hire a contractor, as I said, to come and run it for us, and they would maintain control, or they would give it to another local public housing authority like Maricopa County. They've done that before in other jurisdictions as well. They could also opt to discontinue the program, but we would hope that they wouldn't do that because of the need in the city of Phoenix. The biggest issue with turning it back over to HUD is that the city loses local control of voucher priorities. So we have a lot of say right now in where those vouchers go and identifying the vulnerable populations that we see every year, like victims of human trafficking, veterans, and chronically homeless. And we've been able to do a lot of specialized housing and work with our affordable and nonprofit housing partners to produce new affordable housing using our Section 8 vouchers. So we would really hate to lose that kind of control. So with that, our recommendation today for you is to request approval, or recommend City Council approval to issue a request for proposals to contract out the management of the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program.
Councilwoman Stark?
When you, going back to option 2, when you were talking to some of the other housing authorities, did they talk about cons? I'm sure you heard a lot of pros, but were there any negatives that might exist that might pose a problem if we were to go down this path?
Did we hear? Titus did most of the talking to the
Okay.
other jurisdictions.
So one of the challenges they faced was finding placement for their employees. And some of these PHAs are standalone PHAs, so they don't have the benefit of working with a city government type of entity.
All right. We have someone with a lot of housing expertise here, Sheila Harris, if you would be willing to speak on this item.
Thank you very much. I'm Sheila Harris, Executive Director of the Human Services Campus here in Phoenix. I would encourage you to consider option 2 because I think it gives you at the city the greatest amount of control and also flexibility in working with a contractor, hopefully, that understands what our needs and concerns are. I think it gives us the greatest amount of input from the community. HUD changes with somewhat frequency what is popular or where they choose to put their dollars. And if that goes to perhaps HUD to make those decisions, we might lose out. And also, I think we would have a lot less flexibility. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Councilman Waring.
Thank you. So, just for argument's sake, for option 3, if someone said, well, aren't we kind of cutting out the middleman being the city, if HUD just chose to run it themselves or hire a contractor themselves? I understand about the flexibility and we get to direct resources potentially where we want, but that doesn't mean HUD wouldn't direct them to the same places or equally good places. How would you respond to that?
So, Madam Chair, Councilman Waring, as Sheila Harris just said, we really have no idea where HUD would direct the project-based vouchers or the vouchers to what kind of special populations. They look at national trends for special populations, and they do change frequently with administration changes. So they change their programs on a national scale. And so if we retain local control, we can actually see what's going on locally and what our local housing needs are and choose our own priorities for the most vulnerable populations that we have identified in Phoenix.
What you're recommending today is an RFP. Well, put it a different way. What happens if we're not satisfied? I guess we, being the members of the council, aren't satisfied with what we see. Can we still pivot back to option 3? Would that be, or are we then locked into we have to pick one of the contractors who applies?
So, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee, if we went with option 2 and did a request for proposals, we would come back to you with the award of that contract and the terms in that award of the contract, and at that time we can discuss some prerequisites that if they're not performing at a certain level, that we could opt out of the contract. I mean, those are things that we can write into the contract. Is that what you're asking, is if we can get out of the contract if they're not performing?
Well, if we go with number 2, we're definitely then going to be hiring a contractor. We don't know which one, but that's what we're going to be doing. Option 3 would then be off the table.
Yes.
There's no way we could write it where if the city's not satisfied with the applicants, we can have a further discussion and bring it back to discuss.
Madam Chair and Councilman Waring, if we will come back with the results of the request for proposals, and if the council at that point is not satisfied with the vendor, we can go back and look at other solutions. We can always change our mind
So if
after
there are 3 vendors, we don't have to pick going to 3, we could also say no, we don't
Yes.
want to do this.
At that point, we could go back to 0 and same options as today.
What happens to if the feds were running this program? What would happen to any city staffers who are working on this in this area?
So, Madam Chair and Councilman Waring, if we turn this program over to HUD, we would have to establish a timeline and do the same thing that we're doing with the RFP process and find a way to place those employees in that timeline that we were giving back to HUD. So it's the same result.
Thank you. Any further questions?
I have a quick comment. On option 1, obviously we don't have $1 million, and there's such a great need. We have to be fiscally responsible, so I think that does push us into option 2. I'm saying option 3 perhaps allows the federal government to use the broad brush on this national. The needs here in Phoenix to be different than the needs. And so I think option 2 is the best of the 3 options. You know, we've done a lot so far to get really creative in how we provide services. You know, the recession 10 years ago forced us all to do that. I think it forced everyone to do that. And so if we value this program, which I value this program, we have to find a solution. So I think option 2 is the best option. I feel like it is the best option. My concern is, and you spoke to this, Cindy, but my concern is are the employees that we currently have. You know, those are families here, and they're well qualified. They've done everything right and have done such a great job, and I just want to be sure that we're doing all we can to you know, to make sure that they also continue to have employment with the City of Phoenix, because they're valued. Again, they are well qualified, and it would behoove us and behoove all of our constituents to keep those employees with the City of Phoenix. Now, you're telling me that that is part of the plan, obviously.
Yes, Madam Chair, Councilman Valenzuela, we are already working with Human Resources. As soon as we thought this option might be on the table, I started talking with Human Resources. I have been through reductions in force during the recession. I understand how that works. We will be keeping vacancies open in our public housing side, in those positions that are equivalent to the Section 8 side, so we can place as many as we can, just reassign them within public housing and the housing department. And we can also have opportunities to work with the vendor, and the vendor many of the vendors offer interviews and possible placements for existing staff should they wish to retire from the city and have a second job, or just leave the city and go to that. So we have many options that we can work with staff on. We've also already talked to staff about the possibility of this, and offered some resume writing classes, some job interview classes, and some counseling on careers, so they can start thinking about that ahead of the RIF.
Should they wish to leave the
Yes.
city and go for something else, or perhaps go with whatever vendor may come out on top. I just want to be sure that, you know, we have, what, about 15,000 city employees. We're running on our leanest government in 4 decades. We have really qualified employees, some really great people who are committed to public service, and it would behoove us to keep those people. And so, yes, everyone has free will. If they choose to leave, then you know, we should respect that. So this goes without saying. You just mentioned that you already met with you know, the employees.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad you did that, so that way, you know, they're not more distracted than they probably already are, thinking that this may go away for them. And I would also, and I hope someone's doing this, you or HR, but someone should be meeting with the employee group as well, and making sure that they're in the loop and you know, working together for, at the end of the day, this well-qualified employee on behalf of the city and everyone that we're serving. So that said, I do think that option 2 is the best option of the 3.
Councilman Waring.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I was going to suggest, because the contractor has to do the same work basically that the city staff is doing now, so I would hope that moving into the private sector would probably be an attractive option, particularly for longer tenured employees, I would think. So I'm glad that came up because it was something I started thinking here. And then they're going to have to do the same work. Where are they going to find a more experienced workforce than the people who are already doing the work right now? Who pays for the contractor? Is that general fund money? Is that federal money?
So, Madam Chair, Councilman Waring, the contract is paid out of the administrative fee. So that's part of the contract. So they would get anywhere from 75 to 85% of the administrative fee that we receive. And then we keep the rest to run the housing department and do administration of the contract.
So it's federal money.
It's federal money, and they get a portion of our
So
administrative
that's
fee.
revenue neutral to a taxpayer.
Exactly.
The only duplication was if we wound up with more employees, because the contractor is still doing what they're doing, but then we would have employees doing something else different than what they're doing right now, working for the city. Is that a fair, because you're talking about redirecting at least some of the workforce into other jobs that are apparently not currently filled.
Correct. So, Madam Chair and Councilman Waring, when we do a process like this, we look at vacant positions across the board throughout the city, and our employees have rights. As Councilman Valenzuela pointed out, our employees are tenured employees, they have rights. We would look at what positions they have rights to and what they qualify for, and they would go in mostly in vacant positions. That's the first thing you look for. So we would be holding vacant positions in housing to do that first, and then look outside the city or outside the department to other departments if we can't place them in housing.
So, I mean, hopefully, having done all this, if some of the employees go work with whatever private sector company would be doing the contracting, the actual cost to get the flexibility that you're talking about in item 2. Item 2 is the one that provides the flexibility because we'd be hiring the contractor, as opposed to item 3. So we might be paying a little bit extra for the few employees who remain who go into vacant positions, but it shouldn't be a dramatic increase. And for that cost, we get the flexibility of directing to domestic violence victims or veterans, et cetera. So if I was going to kind of encapsulate the benefit, that would be one of them,
So,
for a slightly extra cost.
Madam Chair and Councilman Waring, I'm not sure if it would be any extra cost because they would go in budgeted vacant positions in general to other city departments. We don't usually increase the number of staff in departments and increase the budget when we place folks in this kind of a situation. They go into vacant positions and just take budgeted vacant positions. So our hope is it wouldn't be any extra cost
Well,
to
I
any
understand, but I
departments.
mean, you think you're going to have positions for all the people?
Unsure. Not sure, and it depends on their choice. Several of them can retire, and they could get a second job with the vendor. So we may not need to. So
Any new positions? I just assumed at
No.
least some people, there wouldn't be an open position, they wouldn't take the private sector option, so you'd create something for them. But it sounds like that's not actually going to be the case.
we don't generally create
okay.
positions for those. No, they go into positions that they are qualified for and they desire.
So they'll fit in where you need them right now, that's already budgeted, or they're going to move on.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Would entertain a motion?
My motion would be for, to support staff recommendation.
I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
You won me over, look at that.
Item number 10 is an exciting partnership between the city, the Nature Conservancy, and the Bureau of Reclamation. We will welcome our Acting Environmental Quality Manager, Roseanne Albright, up to introduce the panel.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to provide this update. I'm Roseanne Albright. I'm with the Office of Environmental Programs and serving as Acting Environmental Programs Administrator. And here with me are Tricia Balliff, who is also with OEP, and she is serving as the project manager and lead for this study. And then we have Maggie Messerschmidt with the Nature Conservancy and Deborah Tosline with the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. So in June of this year, we came to the subcommittee and you all approved entering into an agreement with the Nature Conservancy and Bureau of Reclamation to conduct a study to identify favorable areas for potential green infrastructure or low impact development investment in the city of Phoenix. So in addition to TNC and Bureau of Reclamation, we also have our own water services, parks and recreation, street transportation, and planning and development departments that are also participating with us in this study. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues to provide an overview of the study and the anticipated benefits to the city. So Tricia, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you, Roseanne. Chair Gallego, committee members, I'm happy to be here. Just as a brief introduction to green infrastructure or low impact development, LID basically tries to use natural systems and pervious surfaces to provide localized benefits and services. So I put a few examples up on the slide for you guys. The top one is a bioswale at Primera Iglesia. These are all local City of Phoenix examples. This one you could see up there, I've noted a curb cut, which is a really great feature because it allows stormwater runoff from the road to come into the bioswale where it slows, it infiltrates into the ground, takes some of the water out of our storm drain system and lets it infiltrate near where it's fallen, which is a great, in addition, what's really great about a bioswale, when you have vegetation in there, that this can provide supplemental water for this. Now, this wasn't an actual City of Phoenix project, but I've given to understand that there's actually no supplemental irrigation at this bioswale, which is really neat. So I get very excited about that. 36th Street and Rosemont Drive is another one. This is a bioretention basin in a traffic circle, which is really wonderful to see. So again, curb cuts allows the runoff to come off of the street, kind of helps to contain it, infiltrate into the ground, takes it away from the storm drain. And then our last one are some permeable pavers in the Fire Training Academy. So these are like the normal pavers that you would see anywhere else. They have slightly wider gaps between them to allow more infiltration to come through. So just a brief example of some of the types of green infrastructure, low impact development that we have in the city. So there have been studies that have looked at the benefits of LID when used in an appropriate context and location within an urban setting. And just a few of them are up on the screen for you guys. So the first one, providing water to vegetation that shades streets, sidewalks, buildings. This all helps to reduce the urban heat island effect that we all care about. LID can also help reduce stormwater runoff by capturing, cleaning, and infiltrating the water localized near where it's fallen. I will add that when it's a feature that can include vegetation, vegetation can also increase infiltration rates, so that's really a wonderful benefit, excuse me. Another one, LID can reduce localized flooding, sedimentation, and erosion. The vegetation that LID can support can also help improve localized air quality by absorbing some of the fine particulate matter from the air. And of course, it can create more desirable environment for biking and for walking. So I'm going to turn the next two slides over to our partners Maggie and Deborah to introduce the study that we'll be working on.
Okay. So this study involves identifying key areas for low impact development using two basic sets of information. First, we'll look at baseline geological information to determine where soil conditions are more appropriate for either those infiltration-based low impact development technologies or the retention-based LID technologies. Then we'll use those results to determine where LID can provide or where we can optimize benefits for people in terms of reducing heat mitigation, flood risk, or improving air quality. While we have starting points for most of this information in our departments here at the city, at the county, and at ASU, of course, we'll need to collaboratively determine where appropriate criteria, or we'll need to collaboratively determine most appropriate criteria together and their threshold values. For example, we'll be asking, what does the scientific literature say about which types of LID and vegetation can impact air quality? What's the level of particulate matter that we think that we can solve for with LID? And where can we reduce demands on street maintenance from localized flooding and sediment control through LID? Finally, in year 3, we'll work with consultants to determine the comprehensive impacts of LID at the scale of an urban drainage or catchment. A catchment is that system or path that runoff takes from where rain falls into the storm sewer and then eventually into washes and streams. So ultimately, the study will provide information and recommendations for strategic placement and planning of best practices. It's not prescriptive, but it can provide guidance in determining how we can optimize the benefits of LID. Thank you.
Oh, can you do it to the next slide, please? Oh, thank you. So it's a 3-year study, And the details of the study are summarized in the plan of study. And the items in bold on the slide are tasks that the City of Phoenix would participate with. So during the first year, we would compile data, conduct reference searches, and also review and select various kinds of LID features. In year 2, we would continue with a GIS siting analysis to identify optimum catchment locations, and we would prepare a summary report of the work that we complete in years 1 and in 2. And in year 3, we would take the data that we've compiled and we would use it as inputs to model various LID configurations in a catchment. And ultimately, we would prepare a summary report that would identify the optimum catchment locations and also the suggested general LID features that might optimize use of the catchments.
Thank you. So the Bureau of Reclamation is providing staff time equivalent to $50,000 a year, and the local partners are providing an in-kind match. So local partners being City of Phoenix, the Nature Conservancy, the Flood Control District of Maricopa County, and also the Maricopa County Air Quality Department. So the City of Phoenix isn't going to be providing any actual monetary contribution, but our in-kind match will give staff the time to do things like attend meetings and phone calls and compile and prepare the data for use by Bureau of Reclamation and the Nature Conservancy as they run this study. Also just to engage with the study over the term, review reports and outputs and things like that. And the agreement that we'll be entering into will discuss these contributions and also the use of city data that we'll be providing to them. So, information gathered from this study, like Maggie said, it's not going to be prescriptive, but we're really excited about it because we think it'll provide some really useful information for us about, as we make decisions about where we place LID that might be successful and beneficial for our residents and for the City of Phoenix. So, and in turn, these features can help us to achieve some of the goals that are outlined in a lot of our different city programs, like Complete Streets, like the Tree and Shade Master Plan, these urban heat island efforts that Mark is undertaking, the 2050 sustainability goals, Fit Phoenix. In particular, those goals associated with urban heat island introduction, increasing the tree canopy, becoming a multimodal friendly city and the health benefits that come from that, and improving our air and our water quality. So we want to thank the committee for allowing us to come and present information on this study, and especially like to thank Maggie and Deborah for being here and providing also their knowledge and expertise for the study in general. It's going to be a really great partnership, and we look forward to working together with them and with the county, and we are open to any questions if you have any.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you for that presentation. It is good to have our partners at the Nature Conservancy and the Bureau back. We had some great partnerships recently on watershed issues and a lot of good collaboration, so hopefully this will continue that strong record, and the time is right. I think that the Maricopa County Flood Control District has multi-billion-dollar backlog in terms of projects, and we have so many families that were hit again with difficult monsoons and flooding, many in District 3 this summer. So if we can come up with good creative solutions and harness smart development to reduce that backlog, that will be very helpful. Any questions from my colleagues? Wonderful, good luck.
Okay, thank you.
We'll look forward to hearing the results. Now we move to item number 11, recycling at City of Phoenix housing. Welcome our Public Works Director, Ginger Spencer, to introduce the panel.
Okay, thank you, Chairwoman Gallego and members of the subcommittee. We're here to give you an update on our recycling efforts in our multifamily properties. You may recall that we were here back in May where we talked about our experience with recycling, specifically at Marcos Deniza and Park Lee properties. And then we also talked to you about our plan to increase recycling. So with me here today, we've got Joe Jadis, who's not new to the group, but he is new to our team, our Public Works Executive Management team. So he is overseeing our solid waste operations. And then also we've got Cindy Stotler, our Housing Director, and I just want to thank Cindy for her leadership on this. It's been wonderful, and you're going to hear about the great efforts there. And then before Joe gets started, I'd also just like to acknowledge a few other members of our team. We've got Jesse Duarte, who is one of our deputy directors who oversees a collection. And then also not with us today, but I would like to acknowledge them, is Deputy Director Brandy Barrett, who is our lead on our Choice Neighborhoods project, as well as Lucas Mariarca. So with all of them, we oversee the collection, as well as community education and outreach with our housing residents. And with that, I'll turn it over to Joe.
Good morning, Madam Chair, subcommittee members. So as we have said so many times, we are pursuing the ambitious goal of waste diversion that you have set forth for us in 2013, which is a 40% reduction, as well as a zero waste goal, part of our 2050 environmental sustainability goals. And partnership with city departments is going to be a critical component of our success, as we have learned over the last several months. And so we're really pleased to have this great partnership with the housing department and looking at opportunities to expand recycling with the housing department. So in May, we talked about expanding services at these two communities, and we're here to just give a brief update. We have initiated recycling services at Luke Crone and the Sidney P. Osborne. This is our Public Works Department first foray into public housing. There's 577 combined units at these two properties. And so that adds to our portfolio of recycling services at housing complexes, which we are going to continue to expand where opportunities present themselves. So I want to just really quickly talk about, Cindy's been not shy with us to impart on us her wisdom about how to make these programs as successful as possible. And I think she highlights that too. To have any chance of success, these are really important elements. Education and communication being two of those key elements. So we worked collaboratively with housing to roll out an education program. One of the things I think that is somewhat key here is we actually gave individualized kitchen containers for recycling purposes for these residents. We also met with them. I think we hit about 25% of the residents as we went through and knocked on doors and introduced ourselves and handed out the containers and set up a table to discuss what we were rolling out. So we have a pretty effective strategy, I hope, at trying to educate the residents about these new programs. This is, for many of them, the first time they have these services available to them. So I want to talk a little bit about, first off, how we're measuring success. I think we would define success as resident participation or high level of resident participation and satisfaction with the services, as well as one of the things we use very often is a measured level of contamination. So how much non-recyclables are making their way into the recycling container, because that, of course, impacts our effectiveness in the recycling program. So early on in the project, we had incredibly low levels for these types of complexes being reported, actually surprisingly low. I think Cindy and I were both surprised by what we were being told. I think some of the more recent numbers of the last couple of weeks were higher and probably more what we anticipated we might see. So we were initially showing contamination levels in the 15% level, which is just fantastic. They've climbed higher, which imparts upon us the wisdom of continuing education and the importance of us needing to do that. And we just had a meeting to talk about what we need to do to continue to educate residents. I think the thing to highlight here most importantly is we need to concentrate on the kids, because the kids' assignments in many of these properties is to take out the trash. And if they know what goes where, we're going to have our greatest opportunity for success. Sometimes it can be as simple as that, right? Figuring out who's doing that, who's taking out the garbage. So we really want to focus on that. We also want to make sure we have programs so that as residents change out, the new residents moving in are aware of these services available to them. So we're going to continue to focus on education for the residents because we'd like to have program success. I'm going to turn it over to Cindy. I think
Thank you. So Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee, we are in Housing Department, we are very committed to making this work. We're excited about recycling in public housing and we're excited about setting the example for multi-housing in the city. And so because we're so committed, we are very, I'm very opinionated with Public Works on how they should educate and outreach. And they are very flexible and accommodating, and I appreciate that in how they are doing outreach. And we'll continue to work with them to get the contamination rates down and other things. But even early on, we have some residents who are very excited about recycling. Residents that we have worked with in the Choice Neighborhoods program, we've sent them to a leadership academy put on by PRC, Phoenix Revitalization Corp. And two of the residents you're going to hear from today, Martha Ortiz and Jose Perea, are on our Resident Leadership Council for Choice Neighborhoods and Community Leadership, and they also have volunteered to be leaders in recycling and helping with the other residents encouraging recycling. So, can we play that?
Estoy muy emocionada con este cambio que tenemos aquí en Cindy Piongo.
I think it's a pretty good idea. You know, at the same time we can keep the neighborhood clean, and at the same time we can reuse the material.
Definitely be a program that's going to be very beneficial for the whole community. Recycling is always a great thing for any community.
Estoy compartiendo con mis nietos, mis vecinos, de cómo hacer el cambio positivo de reciclar.
And that concludes our presentation. Of course, you saw they start kids out really young, taking out the recycling. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those for you.
Wonderful, thank you. We have ambitious goals on recycling in the city, and it seems only fair that we try to lead the way as well by example. So thank you for a great partnership with the Housing Department. Any questions? All right, thank you for that update, and we'll let Vice Mayor Pastor was particularly interested in this one as well, so we will give her an update on it. Thank you. And now we move to item number 12, the Phoenix Cares, the citywide homeless encampment response strategy. This is one we've heard a lot of interest from the community and our partners, so we will welcome our Human Services Director, Mo Gallego, up to introduce the item and his fellow presenters.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, thank you so much for this opportunity. We have here this morning Chris Hallett, our Neighborhood Services Director, Esteban Gomez, Deputy City Prosecutor, and Lieutenant Nick DePanzio from Phoenix PD. Commander Vasquez couldn't be with us this morning, so we're so thankful to have Nick with us. We're here to talk to you about citywide homeless encampment and our response to it. I want to do a little bit of background before we get right to that. First of all, aside from all of the departments that you have represented here, I want to make sure that you know that this is a citywide response. Every single department is involved. Public Works, streets, transit, parks, library. Cindy Stotler, the housing director, who we should have had up here because this is the only time she hasn't been, but I will mention her. But I will mention her during the presentation. All of them really, everyone is stepping up. So I just want to make sure that you know that. Our approach is really very simple. We need to be comprehensive, multidisciplinary, coordinated, and innovative. We really have to have partnerships. We can't do it alone. We have to leverage everything. We've got to communicate with our community and educate them. And we're going to be talking about some of that as we move through this presentation. As you probably know, we have had over a 50% increase over the last 2 years. in street homelessness, unsheltered individuals, if you will. I'll talk about those numbers in just a moment, a little bit more. On any given year, 72, 73% of those that we count that are unsheltered are in the city of Phoenix. These numbers here are the last 5 years of information. We count, like every other community, on one day during the last 10 days of January. That is the HUD time frame that is used. We use the HUD definition. All of those things are covered by those regulations. These are the last 4 years, as you can see, the unsheltered. These are just the unsheltered numbers, not those in a bed in a program. And you can see how it has increased. The second numbers that are popping up here are the number of those numbers that are in the city of Phoenix. So as an example, in 2017, we had over 2,000 that we counted unsheltered. 1,508 of them were in the city of Phoenix, because we count as a region, as a whole county. So as we can see, and we probably all know, this is why we are seeing some of the things in our community. And before we get to our specific strategy this morning that we want to talk to you about, I really want to make sure that you know that the city of Phoenix does its part, thanks to you and the rest of the city council and the mayor. You're so supportive of everything that we do. We put over $4.2 million to homelessness on an annual basis. The bulk of that goes to emergency shelter. We fund the Central Arizona Shelter Services, which is the largest shelter in the state of Arizona down here on the campus. We fund UMOM, New Day Center, families and single women. We also put money to wraparound services in the form of bringing utility assistance to people who are moving in with vouchers and those kinds of things. And then the last thing that we're doing, and probably that we're doing for the first time really in a dedicated way, and that's outreach and engagement. 2 years ago in the budget cycle, the mayor and the council provided $100,000 for veteran navigation. We have that on the street, and we're doing a great job in that area. And this year, the Human Services Department redirected much of its resources to create a homeless and outreach engagement contract that we brought up and started on July the 1st. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that contract in just a moment. I also want to tell you, though, our housing department, I was joking with Cindy that you know, they are so creative and innovative, as you just heard in some of the other presentations, and they've put many vouchers through your guidance and direction, and of course your approval. Over 900 veteran vouchers out on the street. The chronic vouchers that Cindy had mentioned, 275 in one particular area, and then some others. We have vouchers for families, we have vouchers for youth as well. So all of those populations are really important. What that has been able to allow us to do with those vouchers is to leverage the rest of the community. One of the things we've been able to do is get involved with a rapid rehousing project. It's the largest in the state of Arizona. It's also being evaluated by Focus Strategies through the Valley of the Sun United Way. I'll talk about the exact way that we went about that in just a moment. But between our vouchers, the 275 that were mentioned earlier, and the 250 or more rapid rehousing, we have housed nearly 800 people out of the Human Services campus area in the last 18 to 24 months. We've been able to do that by leveraging collaboratively our partners. Every single morning at 9 o'clock on Monday morning, I meet and Commander Brad Burt and I meet with Valley Sun United Way, the Arizona Department of Housing, Maricopa County Department, and then the Department of Economic Security. We talk about leveraging how can we do things together, and this is what brought forth the Rapid Rehousing Project as an example. As with United Way as being the applicant, we went to the City of Phoenix IDA, the Industrial Development Authority, and the Maricopa County. They both put in $1 million. United Way put in $500,000 of philanthropy, and with that $2.5 million, we started the road of the Rapid Rehousing Project, where we started to house 250 individuals. As we approached that 250, the Arizona Department of Housing determined that this is a great project, and they put another $1 million into that project. So that's how we arrived at the $3.5 million. The 275 chronic homeless vouchers, when we came to you, the council and the mayor, and we said, you know, please, we need to dedicate some vouchers for chronically homeless, you said, yes, we understand, tough decision, but you made it. But you also said, you know, that we have to have wraparound services for those vouchers and not to use them until we had them. That costs money, but we found a partner in Mercy Maricopa Integrated Care. They are leveraging the Medicaid funding that they have. They are funding the wraparound services and the case management for the individuals that are being put into the chronic voucher system. The United Way also puts in funding for when they can't use the Medicaid funding for other things that they need, and then we help put in the deposits for the utilities. So that's just one example of how we all have to do it together. And while all that is wonderful, we are trying to lead our strategy with services, and our first goal is to house folks. I mean, that is the answer to homelessness. But we're being overwhelmed with calls. We're getting calls into 911. We're getting calls into Crime Stop. We're getting calls into city council offices. We're getting calls into my department, into the neighborhood services line. And quite honestly, as we try to leverage and collaborate and coordinate our efforts, it's really difficult when the calls are coming in from all over the place. So what we have come up with is a community action response engagement services, what we are calling Phoenix Cares. One number, we need to get the calls into one place so that we can streamline and funnel our efforts into a coordinated response, and then we can also bring data for the first time to the number and the breadth of the problem, as well as to the outcomes of the issue as we move on with our strategies. So Chris is going to take it from here and talk a little bit more about what this really means, Phoenix Cares, and the phone number.
Yes, good morning. As Mo said, a lot of departments have already been working on this a number of years, and we've all seen an increase in the number of responses we're all giving to the community around homeless. And what we've been using is that feedback we received over those years to coordinate this program, which will be able to apply a consistent application of our resources to the problem. We've all find out we're spending a lot of time with no connectivity or collaboration. This program wraps all of our services together, provides a single point of contact through different modes of contacting the city, and applies a consistent approach to how we're dealing with encampments in hopes of having a much better outcome and interaction with the community as we do that. So this is kind of a flow chart, if you will, that staff has worked on and put together. We've actually been testing it internally to be able to see how well this will work. And since March, we've had 500 community complaints that we've run through this, especially with, and we'll get into more details of component parts of this program of how we've handled each of these. But a citizen can call a single point of contact phone number, yet to be released. We're still working on that number, so it's ready, tested, and viable for when the calls come in. They can be answered and directed directly through this flow chart. As well, we're creating a form on the Phoenix at Your Service website and application, so constituents can turn it in through a mobile device if they wish. So once these come into our system, as Mo said earlier, we're going to be able to capture all this through one funnel point and be able to track data and reporting so we can continue to modify this process as we roll it out, get engagement from all the stakeholders, internal and external, as well as the community. But the first point of service would be that dispatching our contracted outreach team to engage for services, and depending on the success of that engagement, they would take necessary action. One of the things Mo will probably get into a little deeper on the next slide is how we're handling that once we have them engaged. It's no longer just going to be a referral. They're going to be actively taking them to the next steps of this. And if they're not engaging with them and otherwise maybe involved in some criminal or other nuisance types of activities, they'll be referring them over to our repeat offender program, where Lieutenant DePonzio will go in a little more detail in a couple of slides from here on how they're able to build cases, working with the prosecutor's office in order to motivate these homeless individuals who are creating a nuisance to participate in services or otherwise have some consequences. So they deal with the people part of it, the actual homeless and encounters, and on these cleanups, then it becomes, depending on who owns the property for which the encampment was on, we at NSD will work with the private property owners in order to get the property cleaned up, or the process will work with any number of the city or other agency departments that might own the property. If it's a right-of-way, streets transportation, if it's in the alley, public works, if it's on a library grounds, we'll work with the library department, housing if it's on a housing grounds, parks, All of these are all engaged already and actively working in these encampments. It's one of the most notable responses that the community is demanding. How long can we get these cleaned up once we've dealt with the people aspect of it? So it takes part of that into consideration, and it just recycles. This data we received so far, we're able to produce hotspot maps of where we're seeing encampments. We're able to do proactive engagement with neighboring property owners in order to avoid them just moving on to the next property and the next property, so we proactively can stem those through authority to rest and other forms of notification engagement. So with that, we'll go into a little more detail on the engagement and rope with Mo and Lieutenant.
So, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, as the calls come into Phoenix Cares into the one line, Human Services staff will look at those calls and they'll determine where they are, and that's how we will decide where to send the outreach team. We had a competitive contract. Community Bridges was a successful awardee. They started July 1st, hiring staff, training staff, and we hit the streets right after that. We are able to put, with those funds, we have 4 teams of 2. They go out in teams of 2. They cover 7 days a week from 5 a.m. until 11 p.m. So that is how we decided to start. As we see the data and see the trends, we can adjust that if we need to. That means that we will have at least 1 team 7 days a week, 5 a.m. till 11 p.m. They have transportation. So they go out. If this is an engagement that's immediate and real. If you say you'll go to shelter, we'll take you to shelter. If you say you'll go down to detox, we will take you to detox. It is immediate and direct. They have access to a vast behavioral health network, both in CBI as well as the rest of the network. When they go out, if they see a situation that's perhaps dangerous, we will coordinate with PD to get enforcement out. And one of the things, as Chris indicated, the database where the calls come in, that's the where. With CBI putting this information of the folks that they engage into the homeless management information system, that's the who. So we'll know the who, and eventually we'll be able to even track, we believe, the transient nature of some of the what's going on in the city, because in the HMIS system, there is a GPS component that we're working on activating. So just very quickly, since they started on July 1st, in the first 30 to 45 days, they had contacted 234 people. About 72% of those declined any kind of contact. And that's a high number. However, of those that they did contact, they were actually able to get outcomes. They took 6 to shelter, 3 were actually permanently housed. 5 veterans got put into the veteran system that's specifically for veterans. We took 4 to mental health services. 3 individuals were transported to the hospital. That probably would have been done by fire. So this is just one example. Since then, and to date, we've contacted 344, and now about 49% are engaging. Now, engaging does not mean that we actually had an answer that moment to get on the street, but that means they gave us all their information. We know who they are, we know where they are, and 128 of them have actually been enrolled into a program or connected with a case manager. Some of them are off the street, but some of them we know and we now connected to the service, and that eventually will be able to get off the street. Once we have them willing to engage and cooperate, we can do something about it in the system. So that's the good news. The next thing that Lieutenant DePanzio is going to talk about is the repeat offender program. And while not only a homeless program, it's just a tool that does fit into the homeless world. We'll let him talk about those services.
Thank you, Mo. Good morning. The Phoenix Police Department is going to continue to focus on crimes in progress and community calls for service. Our participation in this program does not alter that focus. What we realized as a law enforcement agency is that our traditional approach was ineffective and inefficient, and it was a fragmented response. We decided that we needed to work with our city partners to come up with a more holistic, sustainable solution to how we are dealing with our homeless population. We recognize we cannot arrest our way out of this. A lot of the people that we're coming into contact with have mental health issues or substance abuse issues, and merely arresting them does not solve that underlying problem. By partnering with the other city departments, it allows us to focus on the criminal element that is within our homeless community. We enhanced our ROPE program, our repeat offender program, which traditionally focused on felonies, and in partnership with the city attorney's office, we now focus on misdemeanors as well. To do so, the department had to dedicate additional resources We now have a full-time sergeant that is assigned to this program, and we have 1 to 2 detectives per precinct that are focused on the repeat offender program, specifically the misdemeanors. Our focus is on encampment, parks, and the repeat offenders that are hiding within our homeless community. We direct services when we're appropriate, where we go with Mo and his people. As we contact subjects that may not be involved in criminal activity, we try to help them and hook them up with services. And then we also use our enforcement efforts to encourage those that have been involved in low-level crimes to take part in services to find themselves a sustainable solution to their housing situation. We're conducting department-wide training, and that is going to direct all of our resources back to these repeat offender program detectives instead of just having random police officers or community action officers dealing with it and no one capturing that information, to make sure that these citizens are put into the appropriate programs to find a sustainable solution. And it also allows us to have enhanced prosecution through the city attorney's office for those that decide to continue their criminal endeavors instead of participating in the program. Overall, we think this is a better solution for everybody in the city. It'll allow us to come up with something that's more sustainable and effective for our citizens.
Sorry, as I said earlier, this has been a product of years of working with our stakeholders in the community. We've received feedback, just identifying with each other all the efforts we've been doing inconsistently. We feel we're going to have a much better outcome with this approach, but we can't do it alone. We need to engage the community, and we have a series of community engagement meetings scheduled starting about a month out, mid-October through the end of October, where we're going to meet with our key stakeholders, those very active in the community as it revolves around the homeless population, our nonprofit providers, and having them and calling them to action also as far as identifying what their role is. This is a product of everybody's input. It will continue to seek input from all those stakeholders as we roll it out, as we start collecting data, as we start sharing that data and seeing what experiences and successes we're having, maybe some hiccups that we need to alter here or there. But it's not going to be etched in stone. We're going to ebb and flow this program as we get feedback as we roll this out. We want to work with the community. We already know some of their priorities. We want to continue to take everyone who's touched by homeless has a role in solving this. We want to know what their priorities are. We want to know what their engagement activities and participation levels might be in order to make a difference in the community. And we're very excited about this program rolling out and look forward to the progress we'll be able to make collectively.
Thank you. Councilwoman Stark.
Yes, thank you. I'm very excited about the program. Thank you very much for all the work you've been doing. I do have a question, though. When you talk about there's still a percentage that just don't want help, and I suspect it's largely substance abuse or mental illness, are we going to try to develop stats or some data to see how we can address that better? It may be that we need to look at some additional funding in those areas. I don't know. I'm sure the police will be involved, especially with the substance abuse. I mean, is that going to be a part of what you're doing?
Yeah, yes. First of all, I mean, outreach and engagement, that's exactly what it is doing it more than once. So, you know, one contact's not going to do it. For those that today did not respond or did not want to become engaged, tomorrow or next week they may. So going out and consistently going out will be part of the answer. As long as they're not doing anything illegal, it's certainly not illegal to be panhandling or to be homeless. So we're very careful with that. But we certainly want to engage them, get in services. If there is repeat issues, that is where other things kick in. So we have this kind of ebb and flow and this flexibility in terms of how we're going to engage. I completely agree with you, Councilwoman, that as we go through this and we learn more, we're going to find additional strategies, additional ways that we can engage. One of the things when we wrote the outreach and engagement contract, we wrote it flexible to be expandable. Not knowing where we're going to go is one example of where we see the future. We've got to pay attention to this data and see where it's going to take us.
Councilman?
Yes, thank you. I'm excited. I was just talking about this program. We were talking about this program this past week in a couple of neighborhoods near 19th Avenue. And, you know, the point is homelessness is up nationally. Phoenix is not immune. And the question is, what are we doing about it? And there is a crime element in the homeless population, but I'm one that believes not everyone who is homeless is a criminal. And so, I'm not naive enough to assume that there are no criminals who are also homeless. So I really do appreciate the comprehensive view and effort that is being made here. And I know that many of our neighbors, neighborhood leaders, block watch leaders, and just people who are just living and taking their kids to and from school and grocery store and whatever, people appreciate this type of, they will appreciate this type of effort. We've been talking about it, so I'm very excited about it. And thank you, thank you for being so responsive as well. I mean, I think every department has been responsive, and this, this is what you're describing here, so thank you.
Madam Chair, Councilman Valenzuela, thank you for pointing out that this is a national problem. I meant to say that. I'm glad you're also educated on this. It is. If you just Google homeless articles, you will find all kinds of information from Seattle to Portland to San Diego to LA. One of the things that I will say, and I mean this sincerely, is that as you see those situations and you see what's happening here, while we are concerned, we are doing a lot, I would just say clearly, from my professional opinion, we are in better shape because of many things that we're doing, because of the campus, because of a lot of the leveraging that's going on through all the partnerships. And we need to keep doing that because, as you can see across some of those cities, things can get really difficult.
Thank you. And it's a stunning increase in problem. I mean, just how steep the increase has been. It's hard to stay on top of problems when they're growing at that rate, but we are trying to continue to innovate and do the best that we can. We do have one card from Sheila Harris. Mark, do you favor?
Thank you, Chairman and members of the subcommittee. I'm Sheila Harris, Director of the Human Services Campus, 1125 West Jackson. Just here to say we are in support of this effort. Anything we can all do together to help people who are experiencing homelessness in that situation, we are greatly in favor of. We thank you for this extended effort from the city to address the cause. And I know it's an ongoing concern because we at the campus see 700 unduplicated people every month who are experiencing homelessness, and it's going to take a concerted effort on all of our parts to address that and try and make an end to that situation. And Mo and Chris and all the others at the table, we thank you for all the help that you give us on a daily basis as well.
I want to thank Cass and thank you, Ms. Harris, and everyone there for always focusing on these issues and being a willing partner. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you for the update. We'll look for the final rollout. That was our final agenda item. We do have a card from Diane Barker for call to public.
Good morning, and thank you, Chairwoman Gallegos and Subcommittee. Diane Barker, and I'm enjoying living downtown. I want to share with you, I was out dancing Motown at Crescent Ballroom last night and actually got asked to dance, and then the fellow says, well, I want you to meet my friend. So I go and talk to him, and he said he doesn't dance, and I said, well, let's try. Guess what? The guy dances. But sustainability, and where I'm going with this is that, first of all, it's kind of a long word. And I was glad to see that there's an education effort here in the recycling that was presented here today. I think that sustainability is something from birth clear through life to death because it's a part of a person, and we're consumers. And so, for example, you get a glass of milk, a bottle, or a container. From that time on, what are you going to do with your activity with that container? And what will be the final thing? And where will you throw it? I know I'm one where I go downtown Phoenix, and if there's litter, I've got a quota. I pick a pound a day. I can take a little cloth and do that. It gives me a little exercise. Some people said to me, well, we have people that do that. Well, you look, where are these people? I mean, maybe they do come out, but typically we don't see them. So the fact is how long is that milk container or whatever going to be there? So my point is it all ends up into the larger community. And we're all responsible for this, because where does it go? Even cigarette butts, it can become toxins and it ends up in our water. And so you can see we're all connected. Where I want more outreach. Living downtown, I live in a senior building. Where I went out dancing last night, I didn't see anybody in my building there. However, a lot of them have told me they like to dance. So I shared this, and I will end with even the Crescent Ballroom. Can you get something a little earlier? Knowing for this. And let's get a sustainability thing where we can show what we're doing and have a dance with it, some type of a social thing. Thank you.
Thank you much, and we're making sustainability fun. We have a fashion show coming up at City Hall. There's all kinds of innovation happening here. Next month, we have an agenda with a significant workforce component, as well as forward motion on affordable housing and sustainability. And then do we have any additional requests from committee members?
I hope we're the right committee, but I'd like to get an update on Recycle Bank. I know it's so relatively new, but maybe in a few months we could look at it and see how effective it is.
Madam Chairman, Councilwoman Stark, the staff will be happy to brief you. We have come to the Transportation Infrastructure Subcommittee with a report on that, so I think that we'll be ready to brief you.
Perfect, thank you.
Councilman.
How about the Tan Can program? If we could get an update on that.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be next month. I appreciate if that was an offer, but sometime in the next, before Christmas or something.
Sure. Got it.
Wonderful. With that, we are adjourned.